You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Hope all of you are gearing up to have a fantastic weekend. And no matter where you're watching or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Today's show, NBA free agency grades following day 2 of free agency, presented to you by Aura, the all-in-one digital safety tool. Right now, you can get a free 14-day free trial. If you enter that link at the bottom of your screen, it's aura.com/chatsports. Think about it. Nowadays, everything lives online digitally, and millions of people per year get their bank accounts hacked as well as their identities stolen. With Aura, you don't have to worry about all of that. It's aura.com/chatsports. We'll tell you more about them coming up here in just a few moments. So we start off with our free agency grades, and keep in mind that this is kind of a combination of what teams have done in the NBA draft as well as free agency, and you have to factor in some of the trades that have taken place as well. So we start off, and we're going to go in alphabetical order with the Atlanta Hawks. I'm giving them a B grade up to this point. I like what they've done. Of course, I have some questions about what that backcourt is going to look like with Trae Young as well as DeJounte Murray. I think it's going to allow Trae Young to play a little bit more off ball, which will take the pressure off of him offensively, with DeJounte Murray being another primary ball handler. And in turn, I think Trae Young is going to be able to get a lot of open looks from three. I do have a concern about the backcourt, but also losing some shooters, which I think would really pair well with Murray as well as Trae Young, and Danilo Gallinari as well as Kevin Huerter, as you look at the trades that have transpired with the Atlanta Hawks. So I do have some concerns about some of the transactions, but I like them being aggressive, and in turn, so far up to this point, they have not given away John Collins. The lone free agency deal for Atlanta, Aaron Holiday signing on that one-year deal, but obviously the monster splash, it is the acquisition of DeJounte Murray, coming off an all-star caliber season in which he made it to the all-star game and was one of the best young point guards in the NBA. From the Atlanta Hawks to the Boston Celtics, a better grade for Boston as compared to Atlanta, A grade. They were silent on day 1 of free agency. Day 2, my goodness, they made some headway. And Brad Stevens deserves credit for what he's been able to do heading basketball operations for Boston. The hiring of Ime Udoka, the trade for Derek White, as well as Al Horford, and what he pulled off today. Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics. Basically, all you give up is a 2023 first-round pick, Daniel Tice thrown in there, Aaron Nesmith as well, as guys who fill the void in terms of the salary cap, and then you give away 3 players who weren't even in the Celtics rotation. As for what Boston did in NBA free agency, love it. Luke Cornett, it is what it is. But Danilo Gallinari, who is included in that aforementioned trade for DeJounte Murray, Spurs let him go, hits the free agency market. This guy is an arsenal from beyond the arc. He's going to get so many open looks from downtown, and he's going to be able to capitalize playing alongside Brogdon, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and you get them for $6.5 million. That right there, highway robbery as well as a steal. So up to this point, through 2 days of NBA free agency, I want to hear from you. Your biggest free agency winner, let me know in the comment section right now. To our worst grade among all 30 teams in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets receiving an F grade. In the span of a couple of seasons, their core of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, it might all be gone. Harden's already gone. KD has requested a trade, and if KD gets dealt, there's no way, at least I would find it laughable, if the Nets build around Kyrie Irving, who has not been reliable. And isn't it crazy that Kyrie, as well as KD, they team up in Brooklyn together, and in the span of 3 years, they win 1 playoff series, and they play less than 45 games together. As for what they did in free agency, brought back Nicholas Claxton, 2 years, 20, Patty Mills, 2 years, 14 and a half. If KD and Kyrie are on the squad, it makes a lot of sense. If they're not, somewhat dumbfounding. The Charlotte Hornets, free agency grade. It's a shrug, because we don't know what they're going to do with Miles Bridges, with the looming legal situation, potential domestic violence against his wife. His wife had released photos, allegedly, of what happened after Miles Bridges got physical with her. This is a guy who got arrested on the eve of NBA free agency, when the Charlotte Hornets said that Miles Bridges, as a restricted free agent, will match any offer out there, will pay him between $25-30 million per year, and right now, his NBA future in question. Chicago Bulls, giving them a grade of B+. I like the variety of moves that they've made, obviously most notably after day one, things being a little bit silent on the Zach LaVine front, he decides to sign a contract, a max deal with Chicago, and it goes down as a 5-year deal worth more than $215 million. Derrick Jones, 2 years, 6.5, it is what it is. He's just a good depth piece at this point. I love the Andre Drummond deal because of the value there. I think he's arguably the best backup rebounding big in the NBA, and to get him for about $3+ million per year to help fill the void of Vooch not being a great defensive player or rebounder, I like that. Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm going to give them a B grade as well. They've been somewhat busy throughout this free agency period, and the draft selection of Ochai Agbaji, I think, is a plug-and-play player as a rookie. You look at what the Cavaliers have been able to do. Ricky Rubio back, 3 years, 18+. When the Cavaliers were moving well at the start of last year, a big reason for that was Ricky Rubio's play and then Darius Garland becoming an all-star. I think Evan Mobley is a future stud. So you're building a really nice core with Isaac Okoro, Jarrett Allen. We'll see what happens with Lauri Markkanen. Maybe he gets traded at some point. But Ricky Rubio, nice addition as a vet, backup point guard. We'll see what happens with Colin Sexton as a restricted free agent. Robin Lopez, going from Orlando to Cleveland on a 1-year deal. Raul Neto, he will probably back up Ricky Rubio as one of those string-along players. As I said off the top, today's show and our free agency grades up to this point presented to you by our fine folks at Aura, today's presenting sponsor. You do more online, and we do more online nowadays than ever. And Aura does everything and more to keep you safe, and they're really diligent about it. You get real lifetime, up-to-date alerts as to suspicious activity that takes place with your bank accounts and stuff like that. Aura.com/chatsports. If you plug in that link, you get a free 14-day trial, and you can keep up to 5 of your family members safe. You don't want to go through the rigorous and arduous process of having to basically get your identity back after it was getting stolen, then having to order new debit cards as well as credit cards. You don't have to worry about a thing with Aura. Sign up today. That link available in the comment section and the description. For the Dallas Mavericks, it's a B-. If they got Jalen Brunson back, it would be a totally different grade, probably an A. They lose Jalen Brunson. I really do like the acquisition of JaVale McGee, though. Over time, this guy has rehabilitated his image like no other player in the NBA to a certain degree at the center position. He was known back several years ago for being on Shaqtin' a Fool, but he's a winning player with the Golden State Warriors, winning player with the Los Angeles Lakers. Last year, he was great as a backup for DeAndre Ayton. 3 years, 20, sounds like a lot, but that front court defense for Dallas was a big problem all throughout the playoffs. He will help you there, and he signed that deal, according to him, in hopes that he will be the starting center for Dallas. Theo Pinson on a 1-year deal. Not sure what those full details are as of yet. For the Denver Nuggets, they have bolstered their defensive lineup a little bit. They traded for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I'm giving them a B grade. They signed the Joker, coming off back-to-back MVPs, to the largest contract in the history of the NBA. It goes down as 5 years, $270 on that super max. DeAndre Jordan, I think he's clearly washed. And you had JaVale McGee a couple years ago, much better player than DeAndre Jordan is as of right now. Davon Reed, 2-year deal, and then Bruce Brown, 2 years, 13, the ultimate glue guy who, once again, with KCP, does help your perimeter defense. Detroit Pistons now. They are offseason winners as a whole, and I'm combining what they did in the draft, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, with what they've done in free agency. I'm giving them an A grade. We now have one of the best young upstart teams in the NBA in the Detroit Pistons, and if you subscribe to NBA League Pass, you're going to watch them every single night, pretty much, if you're a true hooper, because Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey in that backcourt, it's going to be fireworks. Now, yes, Marvin Bagley III, a lot of money at $37 million with the Sacramento Kings reputation. But after he got out of that dumpster fire and that awful situation and got traded to Detroit, he was pretty good down the stretch and is a good complementary piece next to Cade Cunningham. Can Kevin Knox finally live up to the first-round expectations? We will see. Good first year in New York. After that, it was pretty bad, but you're paying him $3 million for an opportunity to crack the roster. Golden State Warriors, I'm going to hand them over a B-. A lot of people thought, Bob Myers, he's in Cabo. He's vacationing in Mexico. He's not by his phone. What's going on with Otto Porter Jr. leaving? Gary Payton II leaving? Well, Toscano Anderson left for the Los Angeles Lakers, but who cares? One deal, really. for the Golden State Warriors, the reigning NBA champions, it's Kevon Looney. Back on a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. I'm giving the Warriors this grade because Looney, if he hit the open market and wanted to sign elsewhere, he could have gotten $10 million per year, maybe $11 million per year. 8+ to go back to a team in which he's helped vault to 3 NBA championships. If you love the NBA, we're the channel for you. We were live for day 1 of free agency, live for day 2. We're going to continue to go live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. 800,000 people about. Join us for the NBA draft. Nobody's doing what we're doing. Join the movement. Join the Chat Sports family by hitting that red subscribe button down below. Houston Rockets, B grade. I like what they did in the draft for the second consecutive year. In free agency, Jayshawn Tate. 3 years, $22 million to continue to build around Jalen Green and some of the other young pieces on this team. Indiana Pacers, I'm giving them a C grade. It's been about average. Some might make the argument it's a little bit worse. They made that trade in trading away Malcolm Brogdon, really good player, who last year they signed to that contract extension, and they basically got a first-round pick next year back from Boston that's going to be in the late 20s probably if Boston lives up to expectations. Here are the trade details here. Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, they're not going to give you that much. Nick Stauskas maybe as a three-point shooter, but Chris Duarte is that guy for you. I like the core there a little bit with Tyrese Halliburton leading the charge, but I don't really like what Indiana got back. Los Angeles Clippers, free agency grade of a B. If you're paying John Wall $47 million like the Rockets paid him last year to stay away from the team and not play at all, that's bad. But for John Wall with the Clippers to sign a 2-year, $13 million deal, that's pretty good value there for a player who has really good athleticism and will be able to play well alongside Paul George as well as Kawhi Leonard coming off the ACL, Amir Coffey, Nicholas Batum. The other signings there, love Batum as a floor stretcher who gives you some size. Los Angeles Lakers, C+. They are cap-strapped and financially handcuffed to a certain degree. You find a way to trade for Kyrie Irving, this grade completely changes. But did these moves move the needle for you? I like Lonnie Walker. I think there's a better player in there, considering he hasn't lived up to the first-round talent out of Miami that the Spurs expected him to be. Damian Jones had his best year last year as a former first-round pick. He's starting to come into his own, but is he your starting center? Troy Brown Jr., Juan Toscano Anderson rounding out what the Lake Show have been able to do. We're talking about winners. We're talking about losers. We're handing out grades. I want to hear from you once more. Get that comment section flowing. Biggest free agency loser is who? Let me know right now. For the Memphis Grizzlies, you look at the Tyus Jones contract, 2 years, $30 million, and you're like, that's way too much. He immediately becomes the highest paid backup point guard, top 25 at his position. But this is Ja Morant insurance in case Ja Morant misses a lot of games like he did last year, and given his playing style with the lower body injuries, him having a thin frame, he could get injured in the future. And Tyus Jones, without him on the floor, when Morant was missing time due to injuries, played really, really well. $15 million for a backup point guard, it's a lot, but he can play a little bit with Ja. He can play a lot without Ja. Then you also signed Ja to that deal, 5 years, $193. It can become about $230 million on that max. Miami Heat, a lot of rumblings that they're interested in Kevin Durant. A lot of rumblings that they have made a trade offer for Donovan Mitchell. Those deals not official through 2 days of NBA free agency. What is official? Victor Oladipo coming back, 1 year, $11. Dwayne Dedmon, 2 years, $9. Depth pieces. They played important minutes throughout their playoff run. It's kind of too early to determine what the Miami Heat have been able to do in free agency and a specific grade, but as of now, we'll go with that. Milwaukee Bucks. If it wasn't for Chris Middleton getting injured last year, they may have beaten the Boston Celtics in the second round, and if that was the case, and they make it to the NBA Finals, is there a player on the Warriors who could have stopped Giannis? I don't think so. And what I like about what the Bucks have done, which is why I'm giving them that A grade, they brought a lot of people back. They've added to the depth and a much-needed shooter. I thought Grayson Allen played way too much throughout the playoffs. Joe Ingles will be able to be that point forward coming off the ACL. We'll see when he comes back. A deadly shooter from the outside and playing with Giannis, Drew Holiday, as well as Chris Middleton. He will get so many open opportunities. Bobby Portis, Wesley Matthews, Devon Carter also coming back to Milwaukee. Minnesota Timberwolves, it's a B grade just for them being aggressive. Now, I have questions about what Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony-Towns are going to look like in that front court. The Twin City Twin Towers coming to Minneapolis. You gave up a lot for Rudy Gobert. how does Cat and Rudy Gobert, and how do they fit in that front court? I'm fascinated to see how things play out here. You look at what they gave up. It's basically 6 first-rounders when you factor in Walker Kessler was a first-round pick as well. I like the acquisition of Kyle Anderson, $9 million for him as a point forward who can pass, make the right plays, play good defense, and occasionally create a little bit offensively. The shot too inconsistent. Then Karl Anthony-Towns, 4 years, $224 million on that Supermax. New Orleans Pelicans, it's a B grade. Now, they haven't been totally active up to this point throughout this offseason, but I'll tell you this. Going into this year, I think the Pelicans can be one of the sneaky teams that can make a lot of headway, make a lot of noise, and cause a lot of havoc in the Western Conference. They signed Zion Williamson to that max deal. They made that trade acquisition last year of C.J. McCollum. They already have a really good team, so they didn't need to be busy in free agency. This is really locking down Zion for the future. Let's hope he can stay healthy. There are provisions in that deal. If he gets hurt, he's not going to be given all 231 of that, but we'll see what happens. Either way, what the Pelicans are doing, David Griffin made up for just the awful hire of Stan Van Gundy. I really like what Willie Green did last year. You take the Phoenix Suns to 6 games in the first round. The arrow is pointing up in New Orleans, and they really do have an opportunity to do some damage this upcoming season if Zion's healthy. Shout out your favorite team in the comment section. That's one part of this. And then with that, I want you to grade how your team has done in the comment section. Let me know right now. A few more teams to get to. New York Knicks, B+ grade. I like what they did. They've been aggressive. They went star hunting last year, and in the previous several off seasons, they finally got their star in Jalen Brunson. Now, a lot of people will say, 4 years, $104 million, it's a lot for Jalen Brunson. It's not when you stack that up against the top 20 highest paid point guards. Last year, John Wall, Russell Westbrook made $47 million. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right around that Brunson number. And I think it's really good, especially if he averages 20 points per game, 8 dimes, and brings the intangibles to the floor of being a winner. Isaiah Hartenstein, an emerging big guy, and then Mitchell Robinson also in that front court. That right there is your front court for the New York Knicks. Allows Obi Toppin to play some more 4 where I think he's better. Oklahoma City Thunder, free agency grade of B. They gave that big deal to Lou Dort. Certainly paid him a lot of money, but that's really it. As for the Orlando Magic, they've been somewhat busy, like what they did in the draft. I would have taken Jabari Smith. I think Paolo Banchero is a really good player, but on affordable contracts, you bring back Mo Bamba. Some people think that 2 years 16 or 2 years 26, is a lot for Gary Harris, but $13 million for a good bench scorer and a veteran leader on a very young team that is stockpiled with a lot of good young assets. The Orlando Magic, another one of those league pass teams that are going to be fun to watch. Philadelphia 76ers, B grade. Now, I have concerns about P.J. Tucker being 37. The amount in which he has played over the last couple of years, making deep playoff runs, championship with Milwaukee, Eastern Conference Finals with the Miami Heat, and what he's going to be asked to do with Philadelphia. But this is really a win-now move for a guy who will guard Jason Tatum, he'll guard Kevin Durant, he'll bring much-needed toughness to a team that has been very soft in the playoffs the last couple of years. He comes over from Miami, formerly of the Houston Rockets. Daryl Morey knows him well from there. He knows Daniel House very well as well. Daniel House, kind of a 3-and-D guy from the outside. Trevor Linqueen, we'll see if he cracks the roster. Phoenix Suns, free agency grade of a B. They really haven't done all that much. They signed Devin Booker to that max deal. We'll see what happens if they trade away DeAndre Ayton. Portland Trailblazers, absolutely love what the Blazers have been able to do. Damian Lillard is one of the best offensive players that we have seen ever. But they needed to bolster their wing defense and their defense in general. They've been able to do that. So on top of trading for Jeremy Grant, who's a very good player who can really play any type of position because he's positionless, they re-signed Anthony Simons, who without Dame last year was about a 20 points per game scorer. If he's a starter, if he's coming in off the bench, he's a bucket. Gary Payton II last year, one of the best wing defenders in the league. He will add to the defensive intensity, which is really important because sought-after position right now in the NBA, it's wings. You need guys to guard them. Gary Payton II can do that. He even blocked the Joker a couple times last year. Yusuf Nurkic, a lot of money, 4 years, 70, but you got to keep Dame happy. Then Drew Eubanks back on a 1-year deal as well. Sacramento Kings, it's a B grade. I actually like what they've been able to do. They signed Malik Monk, 40% three-point shooter the last 2 years, and they also brought in Kevin Huerter in a trade with the Atlanta Hawks. And other than that, they haven't really been all that busy But I like what they're building there in Sacramento. You drafted Keegan Murray. De'Aaron Fox averaged nearly 30 points per game after the Tyrese Halliburton trade. You still have Davion Mitchell and a couple of good young pieces on that roster, but surrounding playmakers with shooters is a smart basketball-savvy approach and philosophy. San Antonio Spurs, I am giving them a T for tank. They are tanking. Does Greg Popovich want to go out with Victor Wembanyama, the consensus number one player in the class of 2023, who is a stupid talent? You traded away DeJounte Murray. It was weird. Did you trade him away because you want a tank? Probably. Are you going to be bad? No question about it. T for tank for the San Antonio Spurs. Toronto Raptors, a C+ grade. Thought it was a little bit too much to give Thad Young $8 million per year and then $30+ million guaranteed for Chris Boucher. They did not make a trade for Rudy Gobert. That was a little bit rumored. I thought Otto Porter was a good signing for Toronto. They've done a great job of player development. I have no questions that they're going to be a competitive team this upcoming year. Just thought it was a little bit too much for Thad as well as Boucher. Utah Jazz, C-. I did not like what they got back for Rudy Gobert other than the draft capital. And what is the looming question now with Utah? What's going to happen with Donovan Mitchell? Will he get traded? Will he not? These are the trade details here. Jazz received Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and then Ball Morrow as well wasn't in the rotation. And then 4 first-round picks and a 2026 pick swap. So 4 picks, the pick swap, and Walker Kessler, a first-round pick. That is 6 picks in turn. We don't know what they're going to be, though, so we'll see what happens with the Utah Jazz. Other than that, really haven't done much on the free agency front. Washington Wizards, B. I don't really have much to say about the Wiz. They locked down Bradley Beal. If you want to continue to sell tickets and be somewhat competitive, you got to bring back a player like Bradley Beal. If the Wizards are bad, it's all good for Beal. He signed that 5-year, $251 million max deal, and if he's not happy a year from now, he can force a trade. So DeLon Wright, Anthony Gill, they made that trade with the Denver Nuggets as well to bring in some more offensive scoring punch. Will Barton, the headliner in that deal as well. So what do you think of my grades? You can rip me, you can tell me that you love me, you can tell me that you hate me. Either way, let me know how I did with these free agency grades, A, B, C, D, or F. Thanks for watching today's show, and keep it locked for the best NBA coverage the entire offseason and in-season, brought to you by us here at Chat Sports.